What if the most joyful phrase in the modern world, Happy New Year, was born not from celebration, but from fear, power, resistance, and a long chain of forgotten human choices? On the night of December 31st, 1900, the city of New York did not yet know it was about to teach the world how to celebrate time itself. There were no glittering LED screens, no televised countdowns, no synchronized fireworks choreographed to music. Times Square was not yet Times Square. It was Longacre Square, a rough-edged district of carriage houses, printing presses, cigar smoke, and electric ambition. The United States was stepping into a new century with confidence and anxiety in equal measure. Industry was roaring, immigration was reshaping cities, and the idea of progress had become almost religious. And yet, as midnight approached, something deeply human stirred in the streets. People gathered without invitation. They came in coats dusted with coal ash, factory grease still under their nails. Irish dock workers, Jewish printers, Italian laborers, black porters recently arrived from the South, all standing shoulder to shoulder beneath newly installed electric lights. Some carried pocket watches, some relied on church bells, some simply waited for the feeling that told them time had shifted. When midnight struck, there was no official signal, no announcement. Someone shouted it first, "Happy New Year!" The words rippled outward, spontaneous and unplanned. Laughter followed. Hats flew into the air. A brass band down the street guessed the moment and began to play. Firecrackers snapped. Strangers hugged. No one wrote it down that night. No newspaper headline captured its importance. But history had quietly turned a corner. Because from that moment forward, time would no longer change privately. It would change together. The ancient wait of a new year. Long before America ever celebrated a new year, humanity struggled with the idea of beginnings. The earliest known New Year celebrations took place over 4,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia. The Babylonians marked the new year not in January, but in spring, during the barley harvest. Their festival, Akitu, lasted 11 days and was filled with rituals meant to appease the gods, renew loyalty to the king, and reset the moral order of society. This was not joy for joy's sake. It was survival. If the gods were displeased, floods would come, crops would fail, empires would fall. In ancient Rome, the new year shifted repeatedly, depending on politics more than astronomy. It was Julius Caesar who finally fixed January 1st as the official start of the year in 45 BCE, naming the month after Janus, the two-faced god who looked backward into the past and forward into the future. The symbolism was powerful and dangerous, because to mark a new year was to declare control over time. Time as power. For centuries, kings, popes, and emperors understood something modern people often forget. Whoever controls the calendar controls society. When taxes were due, when wars began, when debts expired, when forgiveness was granted. In medieval Europe, New Year celebrations were discouraged by the Church, which viewed them as pagan remnants. January 1st was often treated as just another day. In some regions, the New Year began on March 25th. In others, Easter determined the cycle. This confusion wasn't accidental. A confused population is easier to govern. But as trade expanded and empires collided, standardized time became necessary. By the 18th century, clocks ruled cities, ships depended on precise dates, and the new year slowly returned to public life, not as a religious event, but as a civic one. And nowhere embraced civic ritual more enthusiastically than the United States. America and the reinvention of celebration. The early American colonies were deeply divided on celebration itself. The Puritans of New England considered New Year festivities sinful. Public celebrations were frowned upon. Excessive joy was suspicious. Time was meant to be used, not celebrated. Meanwhile, in the southern colonies and port cities, influenced by European traditions, New Year's Day became a social event. Wealthy families hosted open houses. Visitors arrived throughout the day to exchange greetings and drink spiced wine. By the 19th century, as America industrialized, the new year transformed again. Factories ran on schedules. Trains demanded synchronization. Time was no longer local, it was national. And the new year became the one moment when everyone, regardless of class, paused together. The birth of the countdown. The idea of counting down to the new year feels ancient. It is not. Before the late 1800s, most people didn't know the exact second midnight arrived. Bells rang, guns fired, churches marked the hour, but precision was rare. That changed with newspapers. In 1904, the New York Times moved its headquarters to Long Acre Square and persuaded the city to rename it Times Square. To celebrate, the paper organized a massive New Year's Eve party. Fireworks exploded above the building. Over 200,000 people attended. For the first time, midnight was announced publicly and precisely. The crowd counted down together. Time had become a shared performance. When celebration met fear. But history is never just joy. As New Year celebrations grew, so did anxiety. In 1910, a wave of panic swept through parts of the United States and Europe as rumors spread that Earth would pass through the tail of Halley's Comet. Newspapers warned that poisonous gases might destroy all life. On New Year's Eve, people prayed, drank, cried, and confessed sins. Some sealed windows, others welcomed the end. The world survived. And the new year became something else entirely, not just a beginning, but proof of survival. War, silence, and the fragility of time. During World War I, New Year celebrations dimmed. In 1918, as the war ended and the Spanish flu spread, public gatherings were canceled in many cities. Midnight passed quietly. Families marked the moment indoors, listening for church bells that sometimes never rang. Letters from soldiers reveal something striking. They didn't wish each other wealth or success. They wrote, "May we live to see another year." Time had become precious. The Roaring Twenties and the illusion of eternity. When the war ended, America celebrated like a nation reborn. New Year's Eve in the 1920s was loud, reckless, extravagant. Jazz clubs overflowed. Champagne flowed. The phrase Happy New Year became standardized, printed on mass-produced cards sent across the country. Time felt infinite. That illusion shattered in 1929. When the stock market crashed, New Year's became painful. Newspapers reported suicides around the holidays. For many, January 1 was not a beginning, but a reminder of loss. Yet even then, people still said the words, Happy New Year. Because hope, once ritualized, is hard to kill. New Year's Eve and the sound of the world. In 1942, after the attack on Pearl Harbor, New York canceled its New Year's Eve celebration. There were no lights, no music, no countdown. America was at war. Across the country, families listened to radios at midnight, hearing news from the front. Some whispered the greeting. Some couldn't bring themselves to say it at all. And yet, soldiers overseas marked the moment too, sometimes with nothing more than a shared cigarette and a watch synchronized to home. Time connected them. television, and the globalization of midnight. After World War II, technology changed everything. In 1949, television broadcast New Year's Eve celebrations for the first time. Americans watched midnight arrive without leaving their homes. The event became standardized, ritualized, predictable. By the 1960s, satellite broadcasts allowed people to watch New Year celebrations from other countries. Time zones became entertainment. The New Year was no longer local or even national. It was global. The Millennial Panic. As the year 2000 approached, fear returned. The Y2K bug, an error in computer systems, was predicted to cause global collapse. Planes might fall. Banks might fail. Power grids might shut down. Governments prepared. Some people hoarded food. Others prayed. On December 31st, 1999, billions of people around the world watched the clock. Midnight passed. Nothing happened. And in that moment, humanity laughed together. Why Happy New Year still matters. Today, Happy New Year is easy to say, easy to type, easy to dismiss. But it carries centuries of history. It is a phrase shaped by kings and farmers, wars and inventions, fear and resilience. It is not a promise that the year will be happy. It is a declaration that we are still here, that time has not defeated us, that despite everything, pandemics, wars, economic collapse, personal loss, we choose to mark survival with hope. Every New Year, when the clock strikes midnight, humanity performs the same quiet miracle. We agree to begin again. And that, more than fireworks or music or tradition, is why the world still whispers, shouts, texts, and sings those three simple words. Happy New Year.